3 days after Lando Norris walks away with the Hungarian Grand Prix, his car is back on track at a quiet circuit in the south of Portugal that Formula One walked away from years ago and is about to bring roaring back. Norris is there, Oscar Piastri is there, and a 21-year-old most fans have never heard of is sitting in the third seat. The question every rival is now asking is simple: why Portimao and why now? The circuit is the Algarve, carved into the hills above Portugal's southern coast. 2 days after the checkered flag falls in Budapest, McLaren rolls a car out of a transporter here and starts turning laps. The machine is not this year's car. It is the McLaren they last raced back in 2023, wheeled out under a rule that lets teams run older cars in private. Norris drives it. Piastri drives it. So does the young Italian in the third seat. Norris turns 49 laps. Piastri runs 55. The young Italian adds 47 of his own. Between them, they cover close to 700 kilometers across 2 afternoons. There is no live timing on a public screen, no rival engineers watching from the pit wall, just a race-winning team, alone, on a track the rest of the grid has barely touched in years. The rule they are running under has a name. It is called testing of previous cars, and it lets a team run a chassis that is at least 2 seasons old with far fewer restrictions than the current machine. Teams use it for tyre work with Pirelli, for handing mileage to young drivers, and for filming and sponsor days. It is a normal, legal, unremarkable thing to do. What is not normal is doing it here, on this track, in this specific week. That detail is the one to hold on to. Because this is not a circuit the paddock knows by heart, teams that just won a Grand Prix do not usually spend the holiday driving in circles for nothing. Rewind 3 days to the Hungaroring. Norris crosses the line first, taking the win by 15 seconds. On paper, it looks total. Pole position, taken by barely more than 100th of a second over Lewis Hamilton. The flag, the trophy, his first victory since becoming world champion, and the 12th win of his career. But the race is messier than that gap suggests. Off the line, it is Piastri who strikes first, darting back through turn 2 and grabbing the lead into the opening stint. For the first half of the afternoon, it is the sister McLaren out front, not Norris. Then the pit stops flip it. Norris emerges ahead, stretches his legs, and never looks back. Piastri, meanwhile, unravels. He tangles with a slower car while trying to lap it, and then his gearbox gives out. He does not finish. The fastest lap of the day does not belong to either McLaren. It belongs to Charles Leclerc. Behind Norris, it is Max Verstappen who takes second, with Antonelli third, and Hamilton fourth on the road before a pit lane speeding penalty shuffles him back behind his own Ferrari teammate. So the 15-second win is real, but it is a second-half win, built on late pace and a rival's rotten luck, rather than a lights-to-flag demolition. Think about that for a second, because it matters. What the result actually confirms is something the whole paddock already suspected. The McLaren is quick again. The upgrade they carried to Hungary works. And a team that spent the first stretch of this season scrapping just to stay relevant suddenly has real momentum heading into the summer break. They need it too, because at the top of the championship, the picture is not close. Kimi Antonelli leads the standings by a clear 50 points, with the Mercedes drivers and the Ferraris stacked in behind him. Norris sits 5th. Piastri, after that retirement, drops to 7th. So this is not 2 McLaren drivers trading blows for the title. This is a team that has been chasing all year, that has finally found speed, and that cannot afford to waste a single advantage between now and December. Momentum is nice. Momentum you actually use is better. Plenty of teams take a win like that, switch off the lights, and vanish for a fortnight. McLaren does the opposite. Portimao, the Algarve, a track of blind crests and cambered corners that pitches and rolls like a roller coaster, built back in 2008. Formula One raced here twice, in 2020 and 2021. During the seasons, the calendar was scrambled, and races were slotted in wherever they could happen. Lewis Hamilton won both. The second of those was the 92nd victory of his career, a record at the time. Then the calendar settled back to normal, and Portimao fell off it completely. For years, the place sat outside Formula One entirely, a great circuit that the sport had simply left behind. Drivers who raced there loved it and feared it in equal measure. The elevation changes hide the apex until the last moment. The surface offers strange, shifting grip, and there is no runoff margin for error in places. It is exactly the kind of track you cannot fake your way around on a first visit. That is about to change. Formula One is bringing Portugal back, on a 2-year deal that puts the Algarve on the calendar from 2027, stepping into the slot that Zandvoort in the Netherlands is handing over. So this is not some random rental track chosen at random. It is a circuit on its way back into the championship, one that almost nobody on the current grid has raced in anger. And then there is the second layer, the one that turns a testing story into something stranger. This season ends in Abu Dhabi in December, at least on the current calendar. But with a cloud of uncertainty hanging over the closing races of the year, Portimao has been floated inside the paddock as a possible fallback, a European venue that could step in if the season suddenly needs somewhere else to finish. Nothing is locked. The sport's own boss insists the planned finale is still going ahead and says a decision on the run-in will not come until the middle of September. But the clock on that call is already ticking. A track returning next year. A track whispered about for the end of this one. And McLaren, of all teams, out there banking laps on it before anyone else has even thought about it. That fallback talk is not idle chatter. If the closing races of the season cannot go ahead as planned, Formula One has already made clear the replacement would be a European circuit, and Portimao is one of the names that keeps coming up in that conversation. The call is not due until the middle of September, which means for the next several weeks, the ending of this championship genuinely hangs in the balance. A team that has already tested at the most likely stand-in would be sitting on information nobody else thought to collect. For a filming day, the choice of track is doing an awful lot of talking. If you follow the sport at this level, the strategy underneath the results, and not just the results themselves, hit subscribe. This channel breaks down what the paddock is really doing every single week. Because while all of this is unfolding, there is a third figure in the story that most of the coverage skips straight past. Almost nobody watching even clocks that he is there. His name is Leonardo Fornaroli. He is 21, from Piacenza in northern Italy, and outside the paddock, almost nobody knows his face yet. Inside it, he is one of the most decorated young drivers on the entire junior ladder. He won the Formula 3 championship. Then he went and won Formula 2 as well. Back-to-back titles, the reigning champion of the exact category that feeds straight into Formula 1. He is part of McLaren's young driver program, their reserve, the name the team reaches for when it needs a spare pair of trusted hands. His Hungary practice outing is not even his first of the year. Earlier in the season, he ran first practice in Barcelona, in Norris's own car. The problem for Fornaroli is simple arithmetic. McLaren's 2 race seats are taken, and taken for the long term. If he wants to race in Formula 1, the door has to open somewhere else on the grid, and he has reportedly been linked to a seat for next season. He is not at Portimao by accident. Days earlier, he is in Budapest, folding himself into Piastri's car for first practice at the Hungarian Grand Prix, running real laps on a live Grand Prix weekend. From there, he travels straight down to Portugal and gets a proper run in the older car, turning close to 50 laps of his own across the 2 days. For a driver being quietly lined up for a possible race seat as soon as next season, seat time like this is worth its weight in gold. And the track he is banking all of it on is the exact one coming back to the calendar that very same year. Sit with what that means. If Fornaroli lands a Formula 1 drive for 2027, he arrives at the Algarve already knowing the place, already carrying laps and data and feel. Every rival rookie, and plenty of established names, will be learning that circuit completely blind. That was only round 1 of the advantage. There is one more thread running out of Hungary that ties the whole thing together. Alongside the floor upgrade that helped win the race, McLaren also runs something experimental in practice. A radical rear wing, an idea borrowed and reshaped from Ferrari, built to shed, drag down the straights and claw back the speed these new cars bleed away. There is a reason McLaren cares this much about one rear wing. This generation of car carries a huge electrical load and bleeds speed on the long straights, and that is exactly where a wing that sheds drag hands the time straight back. Every team on the grid is chasing the same problem from a different angle. The team had planned to try their answer to it earlier in the year and pulled it before it ever turned a wheel. In Hungary, they finally get it on track. Fornaroli runs it in first practice. Norris runs it in second. Then they take it straight back off and race the weekend without it. Here is the part that still does not quite add up on first glance. They do not race the wing because it is not ready to race. The Hungary runs are a test, a validation. Afterwards, team principal Andrea Stella calls it a positive sign-off of the concept, something the team now intends to bring back at a future event. The track everyone expects that to happen at is Monza, the fastest circuit of the year, where a drag-reducing wing pays off most of all. Not every engineer is convinced. One respected technical voice rates the whole gamble as barely better than a coin flip. But the direction of travel could not be clearer. McLaren is fast today, but it is also quietly stacking parts and preparation for the fight still to come. So line it up in order. A team riding high on its first win of the year. A new floor that has plainly worked. A rear wing signed off and waiting for the right track. A reserve champion loading up on laps. Every bit of it landing at a circuit that rejoins Formula One next season. One that keeps getting named as a possible twist in the ending of this one. And remember the rule those private laps were run under. That older car cannot legally be used to develop this year's machine, and under the new regulations its data is close to useless for the current one anyway. Which raises the obvious question, if the test teaches them nothing about the car they are racing right now, then what exactly is it for? The honest answer is the track itself. Not the car, the venue. 700 kilometers of running, across 2 afternoons, on tarmac that pays out 0 championship points, is the kind of effort that makes rival strategists sit up. Because none of the individual pieces here is hidden. McLaren announced the test. The circuit deal is public. The wing was run out in the open pit lane for anyone to photograph. But put them side by side, in this exact order, in this 1 week, and a shape appears that no rival has bothered to trace. If Portimao ends up hosting a race, this year or next, one team has already driven it recently, with both race drivers and their reserve, while everyone else was lying on a beach. In a sport decided by a tenth of a second here and there, real familiarity with a track that nobody else has fresh data on is a genuine bankable edge. And it is not one driver walking away with that reference. It is both of them. Piastri, for all that his Hungary ended in the barriers of bad luck, banks more laps of the Algarve than anyone else in the test. Norris banks his own. So whichever McLaren lines up here in the future, the man in the cockpit has already been round. Ask any driver what it costs to arrive at a circuit blind. The first session is spent simply learning where the track goes, braking too early, missing apexes, burning laps, just to build a picture the rest of the field spent years absorbing. A team that has run there recently skips all of that. They start from a reference the others do not have. Whether McLaren mapped it out that cleanly, or simply booked a filming day and got handed the timing by luck, only they know for sure. But the outcome is identical either way. Coming out of this summer break, one team has laps in the bank that the entire rest of the grid does not. And that is the part worth sitting with. The real question was never whether McLaren was quick in Hungary. They were. The real question is why a team that just won a race and had every excuse to rest chose instead to spend its break quietly circling a track the rest of Formula One had all but forgotten. A track that is coming back. A track that, depending on how the next few weeks fall, might come back a great deal sooner than anyone expects. Maybe it adds up to nothing. Maybe it is the smartest move of their entire season, made completely in the open, while the rest of the grid was looking the other way. The next handful of races will tell us which. If you want to be watching the moment it does, subscribe and keep your eyes on Portimao.